The HOA tyrant who crashed into my life. It was a quiet Saturday morning in my suburban Atlanta neighborhood, the kind where you savor your coffee and the birdsong before the day gets hectic. I was at my kitchen table, a 52-year-old software engineer, tinkering with some code, when a deafening crash shattered the peace. My wooden gate exploded into splinters, and the shed I'd spent weeks building tilted like a drunk sailor. A bright red SUV sat in the wreckage, and out stepped a woman in a rumpled blazer, clutching a clipboard like it was a badge of honor. She screamed, "I'm the HOA president, and your property's a disgrace." Her name was Karen Mitchell, and she was about to turn my life upside down. I'm Tom Harrison, and this is the story of how one woman's obsession with power spiraled into chaos, pulling my neighbors, the police, and even the FBI into a neighborhood drama that could have been ripped from a TV script. If you've ever dealt with someone who thinks they rule the world, you'll want to hear how this unfolded. Through my Ring doorbell camera, I saw Karen, probably in her late 30s, with wild hair and a voice that could wake the dead. She pounded on my door, yelling, "Tom Harrison, open this door now." Her SUV blocked my driveway, and her theatrics were already drawing curious glances from neighbors. I'd heard whispers about Karen from my neighbor, Ed, a retired mechanic who'd warned me about her self-appointed HOA presidency. I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. I hit the intercom button, keeping my voice steady. "Good morning. Do you have an appointment or an emergency?" Karen's face turned crimson. "I'm Karen Mitchell, HOA president. I have the right to inspect your property for violations." Her tone suggested she'd rehearsed this speech, but it felt hollow, like a bad actor reading lines. I asked for specifics, mentioning I hadn't received any notice of violations. She pointed at a rose bush in my front yard, a tidy, 3-foot plant I'd inherited when I bought the house 6 months ago. "That bush is unapproved," she shrieked. I almost laughed. My neighbors loved that bush. Karen's accusations were flimsy, but her intensity was unnerving. She paced my porch, muttering about fines and authority, her clipboard shaking in her hands. "I don't need documentation. I'm the documentation," she bellowed. I started recording through the intercom, sensing trouble. When I mentioned property rights and legal justification, she threatened a $500 daily fine. It was absurd, but her venomous tone told me she believed her hype. As she stormed back to her SUV, snapping photos of my house, she yelled, "This isn't over, Tom Harrison." Her tires screeched as she peeled out, leaving me uneasy. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived from the Pine Grove HOA Authority. It cited violations for my rose bush and unauthorized landscaping, demanding $750 in fines. The letter looked official, fancy letterhead, legal jargon, but something was off. The address was a rented P.O. box, and the signatures looked suspiciously similar. I dug into county records and found no registered HOA for our neighborhood. Karen's authority was a sham. I called my neighbor, Mrs. Clara, a sharp 70-year-old widow who'd lived here for decades. "Oh, Karen," she sighed. "She's been bullying everyone for months, handing out fake notices about mailboxes and trash cans. Most of us ignore her, but she targets newcomers like you." Clara revealed Karen had an online group where she posted her invented rules, but only a handful of people joined, and even fewer took her seriously. It was like she'd built a fantasy empire, complete with forged documents and imaginary fines. I emailed Karen, politely requesting proof of her authority. Her reply was a rant, accusing me of obstructing justice and threatening higher authorities. Her desperation was palpable. Then, at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, her red SUV returned. She honked aggressively, pounded on my door, and screamed about my defiance. I let her tire herself out, but then she did the unthinkable. After a moment of eerie calm, she floored her SUV straight into my gate. Wood splintered, metal screeched, and her bumper crumpled. My cameras caught every second. Karen climbed out, unfazed, yelling, "Look what you made me do," as if I'd forced her to ram my property. She snapped photos of the wreckage, framing it as my fault. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had called the cops. As I surveyed the damage, a text from an unknown number pinged. I saw everything. "We need to talk." A neighbor. That neighbor was Ed Thompson, the retired mechanic. He handed me a folder stuffed with evidence. Fake violation notices, forged signatures, and bank slips showing Karen had pocketed nearly $3,000 in HOA fees from neighbors. "She's been scamming everyone," Ed said. "It's time someone stopped her." Then Mike Alvarez, a UPS driver, approached. Karen had harassed him for months, demanding he follow her made-up delivery rules and filing complaints with his employer. He had dashcam footage of her blocking his truck. Another neighbor, Steve, a nervous guy who'd helped Karen distribute her notices, confessed he'd been duped into forging signatures for her fake HOA. His text messages with Karen were damaged, instructed him to falsify documents to make her presidency look legitimate. Clara, ever the neighborhood watchdog, handed me a USB drive with ring footage of Karen casing my house and rehearsing her inspection speeches. The evidence was mounting. Karen wasn't just a nuisance. She was running a criminal operation. The next morning, Deputy John Carter arrived, responding to Karen's bizarre claim that I'd harassed her and caused her to crash into my gate. Her story was so absurd, accusing me of insurance fraud, that John, a no-nonsense cop, was skeptical from the start. I showed him the county records, forged documents, and my security footage. As he reviewed the evidence, Karen arrived in a rental car, ranting about her legal authority. John's patience wore thin. "Ma'am, there's no HOA here, and you can't enter private property without consent," he said. Then Steve appeared, confessing his role in the forgeries. Karen exploded, calling him a traitor. John stepped between them, warning her to calm down. Just then, a pickup truck with municipal code enforcement magnets pulled up. A nervous young man claimed he was there to inspect my property. John demanded credentials, and the inspector fled. Moments later, the real city inspector, Laura Gomez, arrived, confirming no inspection was scheduled. Karen's scam was unraveling. Her final gambit came days later. A letter from the Regional Property Compliance Authority threatening $5,000 in fines and property seizure for tax evasion and conspiracy. It was a masterful fake, with government seals and notarized signatures. I called Ed, who connected me with Detective Sarah Miller, a county fraud investigator. She confirmed this was a federal crime impersonating government officials. As Sarah bagged the letter, my cameras caught Karen sneaking into my backyard, snapping photos, and measuring my shed. She was building another fake report. Sarah watched from a distance, letting Karen dig her own grave. The next day, Karen returned with two accomplices: her sister-in-law, a real estate agent, and her trainer, posing as officials. They demanded a mandatory inspection. Before I could respond, Sarah and two FBI agents emerged, arresting them for fraud and impersonation. Karen collapsed, screaming about conspiracies. The investigation revealed that her sister-in-law provided the fake letterhead, and the trainer was the fake inspector. They'd scammed neighbors out of thousands, all to fuel Karen's delusion of power. Her husband, David, showed up with divorce papers, exposing her spending on the HOA fees. He'd had enough. Karen faced 12 felony charges, from fraud to extortion. David refunded the $3,000 she'd stolen. The neighborhood formed a real HOA, led by Ed, and my rose bush became a symbol of our victory. 6 months later, as I watered it, John drove by. "Quiet life now?" he asked. I grinned. Sometimes, the worst people teach you what community means. What do you think about Karen's actions? Have you faced injustice or abuse of power in your community? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your perspective on standing up to bullies and fighting for fairness. Your comments could spark a great discussion.